So a majority of the previous script was written when the writing team was just announced, with some revisions here and there when the first and final trailers came out. As of scripting this video, however, Lanterns Episode 1 is finally out, so I just wanted to get my thoughts out there. Everything I said about Tom King having tonal whiplash was completely fulfilled in the first few minutes. I don't know how you can take that apple shooting scene seriously. I suppose it's meant to imply that the father is like anti-superhero or anti-Green Lantern, but one of the scenes immediately after is when he's calling his father after Hal Jordan crashes the car, and he's completely fine with the idea of John joining the GL Corps.
He tried to kill me. We was on our way to a flying lesson, and Jordan just tried to fucking kill me.
He can't kill you. He's just trying to put you on tilt.
I'm not on fucking tilt.
Then he's testing you. They're allowed to have tantrums. We're not, so breathe in, button down, and bottle up. You need to be cool. Can you be cool, son?
What's even more is the gunshot markings are going up in terms of height, meaning that he's been shot at for years, and he's just taking it. This apple scene might have been something I just needed, because I have not laughed so hard in a while. Honestly speaking, I cannot tell you for the life of me what they're trying to even do. The main purpose of it is to show that John is not afraid, but one of the other purposes is to show that his father is abusive, which is why he frequently shoots his son in the head enough to the point where you have gunshot markings on your garage door. So what it shows the audience is that Hal Jordan is an inspiration to John Stewart, who is also not afraid of fear. Something you could probably gander from the Green Lantern title, or any other point in the series where they have to outline that. John being a suck-up who doesn't care that Hal Jordan doesn't follow procedures is stupid to the nth degree. The fun with their dynamics is that Marines are almost religious, whereas Air Force pilots are completely full of themselves. By having John not push back directly nearly as hard at Hal, you miss out on having a great dynamic and settle for an awkward one. Hal driving the car off the cliff and letting John use the ring is actually a good character interaction that I would say is pretty accurate to the comics. But the issue comes when we are told, not shown, that John's solution is to make bubble wrap. Imagine how cool it would have been, instead of there being a normal car falling off a cliff scene that you've seen a million times in movies before, then instead it bounced up and down with a snap, crackle, and pop. While more of the bubble wrap bulges out of the broken windows, as well as the door that Hal left open. Instead of that, it's just happening off screen. The ring has a backup of Hal's consciousness, who's more backed up than your father. Which is to say that he hasn't uploaded his consciousness to the ring in a long time. This AI tells John to tell normal Hal that there's hail in Nebraska. John flies economy, arriving at a football field where there was a mass shooting. Hal thinks that the victims are aliens, whereas everyone else thinks that they're human. There was one target who acts suspicious, but John Stewart fires a shot too early and scares him off, causing the local authorities to get a hold of him and question him before Hal can get his interrogation in. Hal gets into a bar fight to a song I would expect from a gun property. I'm personally a much bigger fan of the real song. 'Cause I ain't got a brand new combiner, mister, and I'll give you the key. He tells John that the intention was to get into a jail cell next to the alien, which the sheriff is already wise to. He then gets a $200,000 bailout from the sheriff's husband, who is the son of the McCon family, a family that's under the employ of a very wealthy, powerful, and mysterious benefactor. But what we do know about them is that they do not like the idea of being colonized by aliens. Though they accept that Indians got blasted by their ancestors, they do not accept the fact that aliens are going to be able to conquer them the same way they had been conquered in the past. I think that this is going to be the quota for the political allegory on immigration in the modern day, considering that Damon Lindelof's previous show in the DC Universe had also been set in the Dust Bowl and was predicated on discussing racial tension as well. I think the maladroit that comes with Watchmen is also going to carry on with this show, though the idea that rednecks are right about alien invasions is an interesting one, considering that the Guardians, and the Green Lantern Corps as an extension of them, is just an intergalactic hegemon. despite their willingness to allow the American hegemon and imperialism to go on until they decided, hey, they're the ones under the heel. You can ask the question, do they deserve what is coming to them? Their ancestors put them in that position, so they didn't really have much of a choice. They themselves perpetuate it. Okay, that's a bit more bad, but somebody else is about to put them under that same keel. Is it bad when it happened to the Native Americans? Is it bad when it's going to happen to them? Is it bad when it's going to happen to the next alien civilization that will for certain be colonized? That is a very interesting question. Anyways, the interrogation happens where Hal proves the suspect is an alien due to his lack of knowledge when it comes to the wizarding world of Harry Potter. Because knowing the fictitious locations of a British wizarding school is more important than knowing about American pop culture or general conversation. Hal 100% should have asked him a question about Top Gun. He is an Air Force pilot, and that film is considered patriotic propaganda. Hell, it was funded by the frickin' Navy. He later asks questions about Barack Obama, to which the alien responds by reciting the Wikipedia for the guy, instead of giving an opinion on him. In isolation, I like this, because anybody above the age of 25 during 2016 either called him Black Jesus or words I'm not allowed to say other than on BitChute for obvious reasons.
They prefer to be called Sand Frickin' Americans.
I like this out of context, but I'd imagine Lindelof specifically has the most to do with it, and will end up making it a social commentary allegory through and through. Before the alien explodes his entire damn skeleton, he tells Hal that the reason why he won't squeal is because his plans are too important to share. He then taunts Hal using the Green Lantern oath before tick tick boom. Hal contains an explosion which is said to supposedly level a town. We then flash forward 10 years and Jon Stewart goes back to Rushville, where he finds a dead Hal Jordan. Neither of them have a ring. I will say that people are being a bit less charitable to the show than I would be, but I can't particularly blame them either. The main instance in which Hal is shown to be incompetent and out of character that I absolutely hate and can't abide by was the bar. He had to have known that there was no chance he'd get close to the suspect, especially since he'd already met with the sheriff who hates his guts and doesn't want him to interfere with the case. Essentially, the writers wanted to present the anti-alien compound but didn't know how to get there and just lazily tacked it on afterwards. Something that would have been more organic in character and cohesive, I'd argue, is if the sheriff let him on, taking advantage of his flyboy nature, convincing him that he's in control and seducing her in the situation, and he would be able to bag the chick after interrogating the suspect, only to pull the rug under him and lock him up in a different cell. It's the same result, but it does play with the character dynamics a lot more than, oh, Hal is stupid and the sheriff acts exactly how you have expected her to act up until this point. The thing about Abin Sur running away from something implies atrocitus if we do go by comics, but I personally think it's going to be him defying the Guardians. Partially because knowing Tom King, he has dissent towards the higher chain of command, but I'll get into that a bit later. Hal Jordan dying at the end, combined with his lack of presence in Man of Tomorrow, does not inspire any confidence in me. If this is an elaborate marketing scheme to mess with people like me, who knew Taskmaster was going to die in the Thunderbolts based on promo material, despite the fact that I haven't even watched the damn thing proper, then bravo. If it is Parallax, I don't like it at all, because the series doesn't even show what makes Green Lantern so important in the first place. It'd be like having a subversion without even having the initial work that subversion was supposed to be subverting. Yeah, I used the same word like 3 times, what are you going to do about it? The reason why Parallax is so good as it is, in spite of the less than enviable hand that Ron Mars had been given, was due to there being so much legacy with the character. He had overcome so many adversities that could have ended Earth, and yet he stood tall in the face of it. With Coast City almost entirely destroyed, even if he did defeat Cyborg Superman, he wouldn't have been given any reprieve whatsoever. Everyone he knew was now completely gone, and instead of trying to move on, he abuses his powers of creation without any thought, so he can create a safe space.
shutting out the rest of the world and feeding into his own delusions. The Guardians of the Universe, who knew this was a possibility, decided to take no preventative measures and only punish him after the fact. Hell, the race is called Malthusian without the H. This results in Hal killing the entire Corps and using that power for his own means. In Zero Hour, this is taken to an even larger scale. How about a Krypton that never blew up? A Batgirl who could always walk? Why stop there? Make an Earth where the JSA is eternally young. Wildcat won't have to hang up his gloves or worry about it getting punch drunk. It's indulging in the wish fulfillment of being able to create anything with a ring. It's indulging in the wish fulfillment that would naturally follow when you're able to create anything with a ring. But it isn't an expression of willpower, now is it? You're not talking about creating a fire extinguisher or a drill or any other tool that has a straightforward purpose. You're talking about monopolizing sentience. It's the ultimate middle finger to a Malthusian, since it's a world where everyone is of the same mind, but it isn't viewing it through their mind personally, so it pisses them off. How somebody can act so objective despite the worldview being inherently deontological, with their interpretations taking the place of God. All this is to say that Parallax, even before Jeff Johns made him a giant space bug that embodied fear itself, had always been a representation of stunted character development and refusal to improve. The idea that social isolation can be too much for one to bear. The trailers, and to a lesser extent the series, present Hal's insecurity to be that of losing his place on the career ladder, which isn't particularly super to me. As I said in my video about King, Cape Comics are supposed to be about bringing these feelings to the next level. Why does he care so much about being replaced? You'd think it's due to wanting to feel young, but if that was the case, he'd dye his hair and shave. It's not like he can't do it with a thought and his ring. There are a lot of theories going around about whether or not Hal is dead, and why the recordings of him stopped 10 years ago. If he were a shapeshifter, that shapeshifter having enough willpower to contain a city-sized bomb, despite not being chosen, is awfully convenient. If Hal saw a prophecy along the lines of Blackest Night, I think that he would be cocky enough that he thinks he can overcome it. The only thing that I can think of is Guardian interference, which is why the ring would not be able to record his consciousness, since a Malthusian would be able to override it. It is his boss that is telling him, no, turn your body cam off. I'm not going to let anybody see what you're about to see. It sounds like I'm fanboying, but I'm just more thinking a lot of the other alternatives are just very disappointing and don't really make that much sense to me. I don't know why you would do Parallax if your entire setting is just on Earth. That sounds super boring. I don't know why you would do Atrocitus for a very similar reason. And in general, I don't know why you aren't really showing Hal being heroic. Though it is told at the beginning of the series, again, show don't tell. You don't show him stopping the runaway missile, you're just told, oh hey, remember when Action Showcase happened? So yeah, I think John is pretty much squandered. The character dynamics aren't interesting enough to keep me compelled. Hal is like half interesting. A lot of it just makes me think that he's supposed to be stupid. The whole entire thing with the alien ranch just feels like the Triple K gang and Watchmen again. I forget what it was called. 7th Cavalry, that's what it was called. Again, I'm not going to be conceited and say that I'm right about the show necessarily, but I wouldn't be surprised if any of the things I had predicted had happened. Honestly, I liked it a bit more than I thought I would, but ultimately that's a very low bar to set, considering that I did not like John's characterization and I only liked bits and pieces of Hal's. What's more, something that does just piss me off a little bit is the fact that they had the entire butterflies thing in Peacemaker where people were being replaced, and it just feels as though we're repeating that with Green Lantern, even though there's no real point in doing so, considering we already did that, and it happened on Earth, and it happened in a somewhat rural area. I suppose Virginia isn't too rural, but it's definitely not urban. Honestly, one of the biggest reasons why I am making this video is to see whether or not I'm right about my predictions. I don't believe in parallax, even though, you know, it has like yellow all over the trailers. I don't think that that's going to be the case. If it is, it's going to be very bad, and I know it's going to be bad. I just want to see how bad it is. Anyways, I don't want my channel to be mostly rants, so I would rather just keep it to a minimum. I might make a video about the finale episode, but outside of that, I just sort of want to see what my predictions are for the show and what I think will happen, so we'll see how it pans out. Forgot to mention the part where Jon Stewart bangs a grandma. Whatever.